Hi folks, I wanted to give you a little demo on how to use LaTeX and Overleaf together to format a conference paper. The first thing you're going to want to do is make sure you're using the right template. There's dozens and dozens of different templates for LaTeX out there, and you want to make sure you're using the most current one and the one required by whatever venue you're writing for. The easiest way to do that is to go to the website for the conference or journal that you're thinking about submitting to. I'm going to show you two different ones. Here I've got the 2025 FDG page up, and in a minute we'll look at iKids as well. And when you're on a conference page like this, there usually will be an author or author information section. You want to go to that, look for paper submissions, and then as you go through here, you'll see, okay, the template can be found on ACM. So FDG uses the ACM template. If we go to ACM template page, there's a lot of information here. It can take a minute to parse through, but you want to go down to where it starts talking about LaTeX. But keep going because we're specifically interested in using Overleaf to do this. And so down at the bottom here, we see the ACM LaTeX template for Overleaf is here. So if we follow this link, it will show us the most current ACM templates. And there's one for proceedings in a conference and one for journals. So FDG is a conference, so we would want to use this one. Now, if we were looking at something else like iKids, if we scroll down, there's our call for papers, areas of interest, author guidelines. Here we go. And looking through here, so iKids uses Springer instead of ACM, but Springer also has LaTeX templates available in Overleaf. They also have a wide variety of templates. Thankfully, iKids links directly to the correct one, which is the Springer lecture notes in computer science. So from either of these, we can click on the template we want. And then if we go to open as template, if we're logged into Overleaf, it should open up and let us start editing this. So before I get into how Overleaf works, I wanted to mention one other thing, which is ORCID. And ORCID, if we go to orcid.org, that will take us to the ORCID site. And ORCID is a free, unique, persistent identifier for individuals to use as they engage in research, scholarship, and innovation activities. So ORCID is basically like a number that you assign to a person, and it's a easier way for all these different institutions like ACM, like Springer, to link research to individuals, as it is possible that people have the same names. These are meant to be unique identifiers. So you can sign in and register. Registering is free. You just put in your email and password, and you will get a number like this that you can then use when asked for an ORCID. Pretty much everyone now is asking for these numbers to get a publication through, so you might as well just make one for yourself. Okay, so let's go back to Overleaf, and I wanted to point out a few things about just how Overleaf works and how this template works. On the top left, we've got all the files that are not only files associated with the template, but the files for your paper, the title of which is up here. So this is ACM Conference Proceedings Primary Article Template number 3. So I might want to name that to like my test paper or my demo paper or something, or whatever the title of my paper actually is. Over here on the bottom left is going to be an outline of whatever file we have selected here. Now, some files don't have outlines, so they're not going to show you anything, but this author draft does. And we can use that to jump around in our views over here. Our views, as you can see, there's two main views. On the left is the kind of code or markup layout for our paper, and on the right is a preview. We can edit the section over here. We can't edit this one. This one is just a preview. If we change a lot of text here, we'll want to recompile the preview so that we can see that it's updated correctly. Although when you're writing, it might be helpful to use this little arrow thing here to just hide the preview altogether and just work over here in the text view. Now, if you find this incredibly daunting, you can use a visual editor that makes it look a little bit more like the final version will look, but as you can see, this is still single column and our template does 2 columns. So I don't personally find this view very helpful, but if it's useful to you, it's there. We've got some standard like word processing things up here for fonts and italics and bold, etc. that you can use. And then the other thing I wanted to show you was this review tab here opens up a review pane over here, and this is great if you're sharing your document with editors, either for peer review or maybe with your professor. A couple things you can do to make sure this all works properly. So right now track changes is off, so when you're done and you're ready to get some edits on this, I would suggest that you turn track changes on, especially for guests, so that way anyone who has your link and is going to make edits to it, you'll be able to see the changes that they make or the suggestions that they make. So to let other people see it, you want to go to and then yeah, so for me, turn it on for myself as well. But whether you do that for yourselves is up to you. To share it, I'm going to go to the share button up here. And I can share with specific people, which is great if you know who your collaborators are, and you can invite them in as editors or viewers. You probably want to invite them in as editors. The other thing you can do is turn on link sharing, and this gives me 2 links. One is for editing and one is for viewing. And so if you send people the editing link, they'll be able to change your paper, so be mindful of that. But for things like a course or where you want, feedback, you want peer reviews, you're going to want to share that edit link so that they can, in fact, give you suggestions on the paper and do the track changes. So you just copy that and send it to them. And then the last thing I'll show you is if there is something that you don't necessarily want to change, but you want to make a comment on, if you've got this review pane open and you highlight something, you can add a comment or click the comment button up here, which will let you type some stuff and hit enter, and then there's a little comment over here in the review panel about that text that was highlighted. Okay, so let's look at some other aspects of this now. I'll walk through the template just a little bit so you can start to understand some of how this LaTeX format works. The template file is great because if you read through the template file, it actually tells you exactly how to use it. So it is in itself a tutorial on what it is doing. But some general things. The double percentage signs is a comment, and it turns green in this IDE, so those lines do not appear in the preview of our paper, anything with the 2 percentage signs. The backslash and then the keyword that turns blue, those are commands for LaTeX that are telling it to do different things. So this is the class of document. ACM article is the default and most likely what you'll be using. In some cases, like if you're doing a SIG Chi conference, it might change that. Bib text, this is referencing the references for the paper, which are actually put in a separate file, and I'll talk about that more later. But this putting the figures and references in separate files really helps with the numbering of them and the formatting of them. It makes it much easier when you change or edit things down the line. Most of this stuff, the copyright year, the DOI, the conference, etc., doesn't matter so much when you're writing a draft. If you go to publish something, you'll go through a rights process with the publisher, and you will get some emails and forms about that. And once you are clear to publish, they will give you the information that you will use to fill in the year, the DOI, the conference, and the ISBN. So for now, when you're writing a draft, this doesn't matter so much, but keep in mind that you will have to come back and change it when you make your camera-ready version of your paper. The camera-ready version of a paper is like the final draft that gets submitted and published. What else? Okay, so here we go. Begin document. So this is where, so after this, everything after here will actually show up in that preview. Everything before this is like metadata, basically, or like the head section of a web page, whereas this is the body. So we've got the title of the paper here, and then we've got author information. And you can see, I'm going to skip down to these ones to show you how these are set up because they're doing something kind of unique up here. So we've got author, the person's name, their affiliation, institution, that could be a company or a university, the city, and the country where that institution is located, and then their email address. And then you can see from up here too, you can add that ORCID line to this author information as well. Up here, what they're doing is they're saying these two people, Ben and Tobin, are I believe, well, let's see here. We've got an affiliation for I have no idea. This is probably made up, but the idea would be that these two people contributed equally, and they're probably from the same institution. So they're being like commingled, as you see here, the two names, the two email addresses, and then the institution for them. If they're co-equal authors, that's a fine thing to do. It's typical to list people individually. This formatting for ACM for the authors, the ordering is in order of the people who contributed the most to the paper. So Ben and Tobin, they both contributed the same, and it was more than everyone else on the paper. And then Lars contributed more than Valerie, and Valerie contributed more than Aparna, etc. Right? And then the last person is often the professor or advisor or editor or something like that. If it's coming out of an academic institution. So that's how the authors work. So for your papers, if you think everyone contributed equally, you can use this format to indicate that. Then There's a short authors tag here, and let me see if I can show you where this shows up. Yeah, so right in the corner here, it's very small, but it says Travado et al. And that'll be at the top of, I guess, like the even pages. Um, this paper has an absurd quantity of authors on it, so it would be impractical to put all of their names in that top corner. So we shorten it by saying the first author, their last name, Travado, et al., which means is Latin for and all. So that's what this line is. And then we have the abstract, right? So we begin the abstract. This is your little summary that tells people what they will learn from reading your paper. And then we end that section. We've got the CCS. So these are the concepts that help classify your paper, and you can generate this text if we go to the website that's linked in the template, and then you can navigate through here. Maybe we're writing something that's about applied computing, and it's in the arts and humanities, and we're doing media arts, and we're going to assign that concept. We're going to give it medium relevance, and we'll add that over there. And then we want another one, so we're going to go back, and maybe we want human-centered computing, HCI, and maybe we're writing about interaction devices, and specifically sound-based images. Now, it might be that we aren't doing it, or that what we are doing specifically isn't listed here, like we can't drill down that far, and that's fine. We can stop at interaction devices and assign that. And I might say that's also medium relevance. So the relevance here is like how much of your paper is about this topic, right? So in my example case here, the paper was medium relevance for media arts, and maybe it really is about HCI and interaction devices, and I have some novel device that is like, let's see, I don't see gesture-based things here, so maybe it's a gesture-based system that we are proposing, so we'll add that as a high element. And this one, general reference, that must have been a holdover or something. So okay, so we've got two there, and if I hit generate code, it will give me this code that I can copy and then paste in place of this section, and these ones too. Right. Sorry, all of that will get replaced. If we look here, yeah, those descriptions are down there. So 3 is usually good for CCS concepts. Then we've got some keywords. The keywords are up to you, whatever you want. You can go in there separated by commas. The teaser figure is a, let's see, in our example, the teaser figure is those baseball players there. If you don't want to have a teaser figure, you can take that out. And then this information too is about the acceptance process. I have found in my experience that when they go to camera ready, they want you to take this out anyway. So once you've got all that, there's this command make title that builds the that header of the document. And then we've got our sections. So the rest of this is pretty much just section, curly braces, whatever we want to call that section. The first one is usually introduction. The last one is usually conclusion. And we put our text in here. You'll notice that between paragraphs we have one line break. You do not want to go crazy with line breaks in LaTeX. Just use the one break between sections and between paragraphs, and don't put them other places. Don't put them, don't like triple them up for whatever reason. Just keep it to one. And I'm gonna scroll to the bottom. They've got a bunch of information here about using this. You can do subsections. So if you have a subsection, it's just /subsection in the name of the subsection. Information on how to do tables is in here. And still going. Okay, yeah, so towards the end, we are going to get to a couple of unique sections. The first one is, so when our paper is done, we might have an acknowledgement section, which you can see is formatted a little bit different. So it's not a section, it's begin X for acknowledgement. And this is where we acknowledge any funders or funding agencies for the study that we did, or anyone else who contributed their time and effort who is not an author of the paper would go there. The bibliography or references is mentioned in this way. So we're using the ACM reference format. And this bibliography sample base is referencing a specific file here, sample base, that I'll talk about in a second, that has all of our references in it. If we need an appendix, we add that at the very end, and then we can have sections within our appendix. The very last thing is the end document that matches the begin document from the top. And that's it. So let's talk about those references and images. The references, I wanted to look at an actual paper that I worked on and show you how this was done. So here's that bibliography section. We don't have acknowledgements or appendices in this paper, so the bibliography is at the very end. And the name of our file is just base instead of sample base. So if I go over here to base, let me go back up to the top, this is our bibliography. So at the top, there's a lot of like header information that I believe ACM uses in the formatting of the references, which for us actually start at entries. So I just leave that header stuff alone, go down to entries, and then this is where we add our information. So for these entries, you can see there's different types. There might be in proceedings, so this was a conference paper. There might be an article from a journal. That's another conference paper. Another article. I'm looking for some miscellaneous things. There might be like a website. Welcome Home is an ARG game. And what else? We might have like a podcast here as well. Um, so the formatting for these should be based on, whatever publication you're writing for will tell you. But the great thing about doing it this way is that if you have this information in here, it will take care of how the references are listed and how they are printed in the document in terms of like, is it uh, author first or last name first, um, or what have you. So yeah, right, like this, and it takes care of the numbering, so you don't have to change any of that. Um, so creating these can be a little tricky, but I wanted to show you as well. If we go to like ACM library, and we have a paper on anything. Um, I can go to the export citation button if I can find my paper on here, and this is exactly the format for BibTeX that I want, and I can do other formats here. So like if I wanted to see it in that ACM reference format, there we go. If I was doing a Word doc, this is what I would use. But if I'm using LaTeX, then I want to use the BibTeX formatting. So I can just copy that and paste that into my paper, which is makes it very easy to do. Um, Once I've gotten my references in here, that first bit um, is how I reference the uh, article in my paper. So if I go back to my draft, and I've got to scroll up a bit. Sorry to find where I'm using these things, but here we go. So if I want to cite something, I do /cite, curly braces, and then that first line, Melris 2024. And that will put then the correct number for that reference into um, the paper, right? So it replaces that text with the number. And so then as I add or remove references or I change where they're appearing in here, it always keeps the numbering correct, which is a huge time saver when you get to editing. Okay, so if your reference is not in the ACM Digital Library, which is probably quite likely, a great way to generate that BibTeX formatting is to use Citation Machine. So if you go to citationmachine.net, you can use their lookup tools to generate that code. So we put the type of thing that we want to cite here, right? So we might want to cite a book, and we'll type in the title of the book, or a journal, and we'll type in the title of the journal and the article. Or we can even do a website. So I want to cite this University of Chicago story on alternate reality games. So I'm going to hit search, and it came up with this as a result. I'm like, okay, let's cite that. And then it's going to, with a website in particular, it might need us to try to add some information if it can't find that. So I'm going to hit continue, and it pulls in as much as it can. So it's got the title, the author, the website, the URL. So the publisher of this is going to be University of Chicago. And then the year, I don't know. So I'm going to go to this link and see if I can find the year on here. Here we go. So October 9th, 2019. So that was easy to find, so I can put 2019 in here, and the 19th of October. And then I'm going to hit complete citation. And I guess I have to view a sponsored message. Okay, and so after the ad, I am able to get my citation. So I can copy this and then go back and paste it into my bibliography. And then I can use that citation. If your citations come in like this is nice. The like EHRET 2019 is how I would cite it then in the paper. The ACM one was a bit like 10.11 / like I'm not going to cite that in the paper, but you can change that to be something more accessible to you as the name of it. And so let me talk about figures as well. So figures are images, as you can see here, right? We've got a figure 5, etc. Those you upload here. So we can upload files from our computer and add them in here. I obviously named these very simply. If I go to my draft, I'll look at the last one. Okay, yeah. So to do an image, we do begin figure. We can do centering. Include graphics width equals 1 over line width. I have found I do that to get it to fit like in a column, right? And then the name of the file from over here. So picture 6 is that one. The caption that I want, let's go look at Figure Fix at Marketing with lore attached, goes there. The label, this is Fig Poster, so this isn't going to appear anywhere, but it's how I'm going to reference this image in the paper. And then the description, this is really important. This is like the alt text. So if someone is looking at this with a screen reader, they won't see the image, but they'll get to see this alt text that describes what the image is of. And then the figure ends. And then when I want to reference that figure, I'm going to say /ref fig poster. And so that is the label up there. And you'll see, if I can find that figure 6 here. So I do say figure, but then the number, this generates the number 6. Okay, so I don't have to keep track of what number things are, or again, like I said, if things move around or if I shuffle these around, that's fine. It will renumber them in the correct order. Yeah, so it's important that whenever you include a picture or an image in your paper as a figure, you always have to reference it somewhere in the paper, right? So you have to mention in the text of your paper the figure that you've included, because we need to know in the text, like, why are you showing us this image? What does this have to do with anything? Oh, I see down here it has to do with marketing or something like that. So keep in mind, whenever you have an image, you need to reference it, just like all of your references that are included here have to be included or in the paper somewhere as well. So 2 other tips I had for you. When you're writing an academic paper like this, a professional paper, you want to avoid using the first person. So don't use I did this or we did this or it belongs to us or something like that. Um, keep it more abstract than that. Take yourselves out of the equation in that regard. And avoid using weak language. Tell us what you did and why you did it and what worked or what didn't work. But don't tell us what you planned to maybe think about doing or what you hoped to do or what we wanted to achieve or so. Don't use weak language like that. Just tell us what happened, okay? And be straight and concise about it. Okay, so that's my overview of Overleaf and how you can use templates to make a beautifully composed and prepared conference or journal paper.